Welcome back. This section is a little bit different because we're not actually going to learn a whole bunch of new TypeScript concepts or syntax. Every other section has been, interfaces, everything you need to know about them, or, enums, everything you need to know about enums. This section is more about the things you should know and keep in mind when building a project with TypeScript. And we'll throw in some topics. There will be some new important pieces. We're going to talk about the non-null assertion operator, things like that. We're going to talk about working with the DOM, manipulating the DOM. And the first thing we're going to do is set up a simple project with a server. Now, when I say simple project, we're going to make essentially a to-do list in the browser. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be very straightforward, but it provides an opportunity to discuss some of these important concepts. And the first thing that I want to cover is just setting up a project. So we've seen how to, run TSC init. Here I am in VS Code, new completely empty project. I'm going to open up a terminal, and the first thing that I would do is probably run TSC --init, right? And make my TypeScript config file. And then maybe I'll make a source directory and a dist directory. If that's the pattern we want to have, our TypeScript will go in source. And then inside of source, I'll make an index.ts. And then I'll probably go to my tsconfig.json, and I'll scroll down to, I can never find it, outdir, change that to dist. And then I'll probably go to the very bottom and say, I also only want you to include the source directory. So none of this should be very new. We just covered this in the previous section. But with what we have right now, I can do a tsc-w for watch mode, and I can write some code in here. Right? I can do a console.log hello, and as soon as I save, I should end up with a index.js file. But we're not running this code. How would we go about running this code and seeing my hello printed out? Of course, one option would be to execute it using Node. If I just make a new terminal window, I can do node dist/index.js, and we see that printed out. But I want to do something in the browser, right? I want to be able to view my code in the browser, maybe manipulate the DOM. So instead of using Node, I'm going to go and make an index.html file, index.html. And I'll turn this down a bit, taking up too much space there. And I'll just call this mini project. And then I would just include a script tag, right? So script, source equals, and then the dist folder /index.js. That would be the file that is compiled from our index.ts. So let's try something. Hello, let's add a bunch of exclamation points to our TypeScript file. And then we have our HTML file. And now I just need to open that in the browser. I'll just do open index.html. Here it is. I open up the console, and we finally see our hello printed out. So now anytime I make some changes, let's say I change this to be hello, I am hungry, which might be true. I'm going to save this. My JavaScript file that is compiled has that new change, but of course the browser doesn't. I have to manually refresh. So instead of doing that, what I'd like to do is have a live server that automatically updates in the browser. So this has nothing to do with TypeScript, right? We're done with TypeScript config for this video at least. This has to do with just a workflow of being able to have a live update, something auto-refreshing, syncing the browser with my file. So there's different options for accomplishing this. There's different packages we could use. The one that I'll use is called Light Server. So we need to install it with npm. And to start, we're going to do an npm init-y. So that will make me my package.json. It used the name of my directory, which is technically not a valid name for an npm package. I should lowercase it. It really doesn't matter though, but just to make that go away. Okay, so now I'm going to do an npm install, and then light-server. Hopefully that font is big enough for you, because as soon as I make it larger, everything just gets really messed up in here. Light, L-I-T-E, so incorrect spelling, -server. And then I'll hit enter. And that should show up in my package.json. I don't need to do save dev or anything like that. It should just automatically show up there. We'll wait for this to finish. Come on. Okay, and there it is. We have Light Server. And now the next step is to set up a command, or rather a script, I'll call it start. Whoops, I'm in caps lock. Start. So when I run npm start, I want it to run light server. That's just that tool we just downloaded. And all that it will do is start up this live server. It opens up my browser, localhost something, 3000-ish. And then it also has this live or auto refreshing capability. So now I just need to run npm start down here. So I have two windows open. One is my TypeScript that is in watch mode, just changing or recompiling anytime I update this file. And then the other is going to be npm start, which will have my live server. And there we go. Browser sync connected. If I open this up, okay, favicon, that's fine. Ignore that for now. And if I change something in my index.ts, console.log, woo, head over here, it auto refreshes. Thanks to browser sync, it looks good. Okay, so now we have a very simple skeleton for a project that is a bit more usable. I can immediately see my code executed over here, and then I can immediately have it compiled from TypeScript to JavaScript. So we got all the steps there, right? We have our TypeScript code in here. I can define, my some function called print double, and it has to accept, message, which is a string, right? And then all it does is console.log message twice. Okay, and then I'll get my TypeScript checking over here. If I try and do something like this, it's going to complain. But I'll still be able to execute the code. Hello world with a happy face. I save. My TypeScript automatically recompiled. I have a new version of the JavaScript file, which then my light server noticed, and then it automatically reloaded the browser for me, and we see hello world twice. So we'll use this setup throughout some of the sections remaining in this course whenever we want to really play with our output, and we're not focused as much on the TypeScript piece or on the syntax, but more so on the output. And this section is about making a little mini project. So we have our setup now. We can go and try to build a to-do list using DOM and manipulating it and working with types. That is all coming up. But for now, we've got a basic skeleton.